Hello and welcome to the job interview course. My name is Delaney. I'm a highly experienced career coach and interview coach and the author of What is Your Interview Identity? This course sets out to increase the interviewee's awareness of the psychology in play during the job interview process and how candidates, due to their level of knowledge and experience and their level of confidence in the job interview, are viewed by the interviewer through their interview identity. Research has shown how first impressions created by the interviewee's communication, appearance and confidence level affect the interview's judgment, creating a filter or bias that affects the job interview outcome. Possessing a high level of knowledge and experience alone is not enough to increase job offers. Confidence, often highlighted through self-promotion, is seen as positive in the job interview, even expected. Confidence which improves likability will increase the prospect of a successful interview. But alone, confidence isn't enough to guarantee job offers, as research shows how being able to identify the job criteria, which comes from having a high level of knowledge and experience, improves the interview performance. Answers relate directly to the scoring requirement on the scorecard. So it's a combination of a medium to high level of knowledge and experience and confidence that increases the likelihood of potential job offers. In this course, we're going to go through the 3 rules of a successful interview, which are identifying the job criteria, being a self-promoter, and communicating with confidence. We'll help explain what a structured job interview is and what makes a high-scoring interview answer. We'll even delve into how to overcome interview anxiety and to be more confident at public speaking, delivering strong examples during the interview process, and how to be seen as an expert or an authority. So let's get started with part 1 of the job interview course, the interview process. In this section we're going to talk about structured job interviews, what makes a high scoring answer, strength-based interviews and how they relate to the culture of the organisation, the 3 rules for a successful job interview, and how you can speak more confidently during interview presentations and the job interview process itself. You'll need a pen and paper to make notes and to take ideas, plus there will be some exercises for you to do throughout this whole course. So the first thing you need to learn is what is a structured job interview. This is because the structured job interview is the most commonly used interview process for most employers and recruiters. The reason most people choose the structured job interview is because research shows that it's more likely to predict the job performance of each applicant more accurately than any other recruitment process out there. This means the employer, ideally, can choose the best person for the position. The way a structured job interview works is that each candidate receives an individual score for each interview question which is asked by the same interviewers in the same order. The scores allocated to each answer are rated as an example between 1 and 4, with 1 being negative, 2 good, 3 effective and 4 as an expert, with all employers having their own numerical scoring system. So the idea is that each applicant is asked a question, the same question, and answers can be compared to the description on the interview scorecard, given a 1, 2, 3 or 4 rating, and also they can be compared to other answers from other applicants. We're going to discuss several structured job interview processes, and the first one is the behavioural job interview. Employers who support the behavioural job interview assume that past behaviours predict future actions. A zebra can't change its stripes. The employer will question an applicant on previous behaviours, allowing the interviewer to identify common traits and actions and therefore predict how the candidate will act once employed in their organisation. Now you've probably come across behavioural job interview questions before. Some examples would include, tell me about a time when you were successful. What did you do when a customer complained? When have you achieved your targets? So all the questions are set in the past, allowing the applicant to think of relevant examples that they can discuss descriptively, ensuring that they meet the job criteria for the new role. Because one of the biggest barriers when thinking about past examples is choosing a situation that's not relevant for the job role you're applying for. Always remember that rule 1 is to identify the job criteria, which means each example, each story, each job interview answer needs to be relevant or reference the criteria for the position that you are applying for. The second type of structured interview is the situational interview, where hypothetical questions are asked for fictional future scenarios. The idea is that the employer will set out a question, and the applicant, using their experiences, their skills and their qualities, will explain the step-by-step process they will take to achieve the outcome or to overcome the potential barrier. Questions will sound future-based. As an example, how would you handle multiple deadlines? What would you do if a customer made a complaint? If a last-minute order came in due to over-demand, how would you handle that situation? More than ever before, employers are asking job interview questions to uncover the applicant's motivation, interest, and best working styles. Whereas situational behavioural job interviews, in the main, have a focus on the applicant's ability to complete the required job duties. The idea with strengths-based job interviewing is that the recruiter will employ an applicant who fits well within the organisation, and that means they're more likely to stay for a longer duration compared to someone who might job hop from company to company. The interview questions are based on preferences. As an example, they might ask, do you prefer to be told what to do or to complete tasks on your own initiative? They might ask simple questions like, what do you like to do? Or, how would you respond in a certain situation? With strengths-based job interviewing, there's no right or wrong answer. What they're trying to do is uncover an honest answer from the applicant to match them to the culture, the values and the job role for the position you're applying for. And the payoff for an applicant to be honest is that they'll often be recruited into a position that they naturally excel in. Technology is changing the recruitment process. What we're going to be seeing in the future is an increase in virtual video recordings. One way to decide which applicants to invite to a face-to-face job interview is to get all the applicants who are applying for the position to record interview answers. The way this works is, on average, you'll be asked 3 questions. The 3 questions will appear on screen one by one. You'll get to read the question for 30 seconds, and then the computer system will record your answer, and the answers often last for a duration of 1 to 2 minutes. At the end of that 2 minutes or the 1 minute, the video recording ends even if the applicant is halfway through their interview answer. What this means is each applicant has to prepare for an improv question and has to give a detailed answer that meets the job criteria, but be able to give that answer in a set duration, a set period of time, which is a little bit trickier than you think it's going to be. The questions are often structural based questions, either situational or behavioural questions. They don't often use strength based interviewing as part of this process. They normally wait until a face-to-face interview before they ask questions around your preferences, your values and your motivational traits. What this means for you guys is you need to start practicing talking on camera. You need to start practicing delivering answers in a prepared duration. And you need to understand the importance of when giving a short answer that the answer relates to the job you're applying for. It hits the criteria on the job interview scorecard. In about 8 out of 10 job interviews, the employer will use a mixture of the different structured job interview questions. Some will be strength-based, some behavioural and some situational. But structured job interviews means there is a scoring system attached to that job interview process. What this means for you as the applicant is that you need to be able to predict the job interview questions, as this allows you to create and design high scoring job interview answers. There are three ways that you can predict the job interview questions. Number one, on the job advert and the job application form, there'll be a list of duties, skills, and qualities that you are required to have for the position. What you're looking for here is the common skills, qualities, and experience that are repetitive throughout their copy. As an example, if an employee keeps talking about thinking out the box, being creative, and being innovative, one of the job interview questions will be around this criteria. The second way to predict job interview questions is using social media. So go on places like LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the different social media platforms, and start befriending people who have previously worked for that organisation or work for that organisation now. Generate a conversation, get chatting to them, ask them what their workplace is like, and then after that conversation has become a friendly, natural conversation, ask them about the recruitment process and what questions they was asked for their position. You might even get away with saying what sort of answers did they give because they got hired after attending the same sort of interview that you're going to attend. And the third and final way is just Googling job role interview questions. So that might be business manager interview questions or civil engineer interview questions. Google is filled with websites that are filled with job interview questions relevant to that job sector. Some are quite generic, but there's some good websites out there that are very specific, like employmentking.co.uk. So the three ways to predict job interview questions is 1, reading the job application form, 2, asking people who work for that organisation or have worked for that organisation on places like LinkedIn, and 3, just using Google, because we use Google to search for anything, don't we? So use Google to search for relevant job interview questions. Once you've got the questions, find the examples, find the experiences to help you create high scoring interview answers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the course. So we know most employers use a structured job interview process. Embedded into that process is a scoring criteria. What this means is that any applicant to score high in a job interview needs to understand how to predict their job interview questions, as we have previously discussed. So your first task is now to pause this video for 15 minutes. During those 15 minutes, I want you to think about how you can predict your job interview questions, and you can do this in 3 different ways. Number 1, think about previous job interviews that you've attended in the sector that you are in, and write down any common interview questions. Number 2, jump on Google, put in your job role plus job interview questions. As an example, engineer job interview questions, retail manager job interview questions, and that will come up with lists and websites of job interview potential questions that you may be asked. And third and finally, think about the job that you're currently applying for. Read the job description, read the job advert, go on the company website, and use that information, that data, to predict potential job interview questions. At this stage, you don't need to write down any answers. All I want you to do is write down a list of job interview questions that we'll come back to later on in this course. As well as the structured job interview, you may be asked to attend an additional interview. A very common interview is the informal job interview, where you're not asked the same questions that each applicant is asked, and each question isn't scored against a criteria on a scorecard. Instead, the informal job interview is a relaxed conversational interview where the employer just wants to get to know you by generating a conversation. So all the questions are based on the conversation in that moment. As you give an example or talk about a past experience, the employer might ask more questions to delve into what it was that you did that made that example or that situation a success. The idea is it's relaxed, it's natural, it's informal, it brings out the best in the applicant, so you can ideally predict how good they will be once employed. The negative with the informal job interview is it's emotional based job interview. It's not logical. People make decisions based on likability. So if you're good at building rapport, you're good at creating likability, you're a friendly professional person, you come across as well mannered and motivated, you're quite likely to do well in this interview format. But if you're a little bit nervous, you lack confidence, you've got lots of anxiety, or you're not very good at giving descriptive answers, you might fall foul during this interview process. What you'll often be asked to do as well, especially for high paid positions, is attend a all-day interview process. During the all-day process, you might be asked to do a structured job interview, a group task, a test, and even an informal interview at the end of it. In the test, it depends on the job position. You might be asked to do an English test, a maths test, or a problem-solving test. Some employers still use psychometric tests as well, even though they're not as popular as they used to be 5, 10, or 15 years ago. What is still very popular though is group tasks. So group tasks is when 5 or 6 applicants are put into a group together, they're given a problem to solve, and 5 or 6 different interviewers around the room watch all the different groups simultaneously and start making marks about how they perceived each applicant in that group. What they're looking for here is teamwork, leadership skills, and communication. A great technique in the group task is to be the person who picks up the task and read it out to the whole group, and then start asking questions. Has anyone worked on a similar task before? Has anyone got experience doing this particular task? Get people to talk and respond, and when you notice people who are very quiet or introvert, ask them direct questions, because interviewers don't really care if you complete the task or not. What they're looking for here is your skill set, your teamwork, your communication, your analytical process, your leadership style. That's what the group task is all about. It's about your skills rather than completing a task. So the question is, who gets the job? Well, the job is often offered to the person who is perceived to have the highest level of knowledge and experience and the highest level of confidence. This is because people who are competent and confident in the workplace aren't always competent and confident in the job interview environment. As an example, someone who's got a high number of sector years experience and a low level of confidence might not be offered a job because the employer knows through their application form that they've got skills, experience and qualities that they desire. But in the job interview, because of the structured job interview process, if the applicant don't mention these skills and experiences, it's unlikely that they are going to receive a 4 or 3 point. So what is required is someone who can talk the talk and someone who can walk the walk. The most successful applicants are those applicants who follow the 3 rules of a successful job interview. Rule number 1 is identifying the job criteria. By understanding what the employer desires from you as an applicant and as an employee, you can reference these skills, qualities and experience throughout that job interview process. In fact, each interview answer should reference at least 3 job criteria, having the main focus on at least one of them. An example of this is someone being asked about problem solving. So the interview question might be, give me an example of when you've shown problem solving skills. During the answer, you'll focus mainly on problem solving, but you might talk about collaboration or being innovative, thinking out the box, additional skills that are required for that same position. Rule number 2 of a successful job interview is be a self-promoter. In the UK especially, we're very reserved and we don't like to tell people all our strengths, all our key qualities and our unique selling point. But self-promotion is expected in the job interview. To receive a scoring of a 4 for your job interview answer, you need to promote your skills and your experiences. An example of this is someone saying, I'm highly experienced at managing underperforming organisations. So on the face of it, that's quite a strong, competent statement. But a better way to self-promote is by saying something along the lines of, for the past 10 years, I've been turning companies on the brink of bankruptcy into multi-million-pound organisations. The same person with the same experiences, but they frame the interview answer in such a way that it makes them stand out, because each single word is a self-promoting word. The third rule for a successful job interview outcome is communicate with confidence. Research has shown how referencing the job criteria alone isn't enough to create high-scoring job interview answers. What is also key to a successful interview outcome is the language or the varying language used throughout the whole recruitment process. Language creates an emotional response in other people, changing how the employer views an applicant, therefore affecting the scoring allocation. Highly confident applicants, research shows, has a natural tendency to utilise assertive and varied communication, whereas low confident candidates fall back on weak, repetitive language. An example of anxious applicants is when they subconsciously use the word try in their interview answers. Try presumes failure, whereas will presupposes action. This small change in language, consciously choosing an appropriate verb, elicits various reactions. So as an example to improve your confident language, substitute try for will, substitute think to know, substitute could to always, and substitute I believe to I'm confident or I'm convinced. You also need to have varying tonality, so sometimes speak with passion and sometimes bring that back in, increase and decrease volume, and just generally when speaking use non-verbal communication such as strong eye contact, gestures and body language to reinforce the words that you are saying to the employer. In a second, I'm going to get you to pause this video, pull out your phone and record yourself doing a short speech. Most of you automatically will think, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'll continue watching the video. Don't. The exercises in this course have been designed to help you improve your interview skills to a level where you can communicate your competencies confidently. And this exercise is part of that process. So what I'm going to do is get you to answer the question, if you could choose a superpower, what would it be? So the question is, if you could choose a superpower, what would it be? So I want you to pause the video, get out your phone, without rehearsing, answer that question. Your question is, if you could choose a superpower, what would it be? And your answer should last 1 or 2 minutes. So my first question is, did you pause the video and did you make a recording of your speech? If you didn't, stop now and do that exercise. It's very important. If you did, I want you again to pause this video and re-watch the recording you had just made. Now you've re-watched the recording, I want you to notice how you come across as a public speaker. So the first thing I want you to notice is the number of filler words that you use throughout that 1 to 2 minute speech. Filler words are ahs, so's, likes, the random noises and words that we put between sentences and paragraphs because we feel awkward with silences. The problem with people who use excessive filler words is that it can distract the employer from the message of your interview answer. Research finds that people with low levels of self-esteem and high levels of anxiety use excessive filler words when speaking in front of people, compared to a confident person who is more comfortable with silences when speaking to interviewers, when speaking on stage to large audiences, or when speaking to friends and family at home. By noticing the number of filler words that you use throughout your speech, and a great way to do that is just simply count them, makes it a conscious action which allows you to overcome that barrier in future conversations. So by watching your video, counting the number of filler words, it becomes a conscious action which makes you aware of that situation in future conversations. The other thing that is really important when public speaking is the tonality of your voice, the volume, the pitch, even the words that you say. People who have a monotone voice, who talk at one level, create a hypnotic trance that sends the employer to sleep. What you need to be doing is increasing your volume, speaking with emotion, and drawing people in by being quiet at some parts of the conversation. Also look at how you come across visually. Does your facial expressions, gestures and body language match the words that you were saying? Also, how was the structure of your speech? Did you have a beginning, a middle and an end? In job interviews, what we often do is start off with a confirmation statement where we say we have that particular skill that they're discussing. We then, in the middle of that speech, give an example of using that skill to overcome a particular problem or to achieve a goal or an objective. And we often end our interview answer with a summary to confirm what skills and experiences we were particularly talking about. You can expand this as well by using hooks to create intrigue. As an example, you might get the interviewer to think about you in a new light by giving them a question. Did you know that I? And then add something spectacular that you had done in a previous role. You might also use the summary to get the employer to view you in their organisation. And the way you do this is talk about a past experience and then take that experience and make it relevant to their job role. So as you can see, I have X, Y and Z skills or experience. If I was working for your organisation, using these skills and experiences, I will be able to A, B and C. Most applicants will focus on past achievements and leave it there, but what you want to be doing is focusing on past achievements and making it relevant to the job criteria for the position you are applying for. We have now come to the end of part 1 of the job interview course. During this first section, we talked about how most employers will utilise the structured job interview process. Applicants will be asked on average 8 to 10 job interview questions, and their answers are referenced against the criteria on the job interview scorecard, with points being allocated to each answer, with a lot of employers using a 1 to 4 pointing system. We explained the 3 rules of a successful job interview, which are 1. Identify the job criteria, 2. Be a self-promoter, and 3. Communicate with confidence. We had a big focus on public speaking in general when I asked you that question, what is your best superhero power? What you need to be doing now is reflecting on your public speaking skills in general, because really a job interview is you speaking to strangers about your past experience, your skills and your qualities. So using the 10 job interview questions that you predicted you will be asked in your future job interviews, you now need to start thinking about your answers. In your interview answers, you need a opening, a middle and an end. You need to focus on your filler words, your tonality, your volume, your passion, your emotion, because later in this course we'll talk to you about how to reference the criteria in such a way that it makes you seem as an authority in your sector. In the next section, we're going to talk about the 3 barriers to a successful job interview. These barriers include the interview identity, the employer's behaviour, which affects how the applicant behaves in that interview, and of course unconscious bias.